Today I want to share with you 3 ways to deal with pitchy singers in the studio. That's pitchy with a P. First things first, you can't fix tone deaf. So if the person just literally can't sing, good luck to you. However, if the person can normally sing, right, you sit them in front of you with an instrument and it sounds amazing, but somehow when you get them on a microphone with headphones and the whole thing going, it starts to get pitchy, that we can fix. And I'm going to show you how in this video. Before we jump in, if you're recording vocalists, then you're also recording lots of other things like instruments, and that can be simple sometimes, but also complicated, especially if you've got a good tone, and then you're thinking, gosh, what do I record next? Get this. This will help you answer that question every time. This is the ultimate recording checklist, single page, print it out. It just kind of gives you some prompts and ideas of certain types of parts to record. So whatever the instrument is that you're recording, you've got some ideas of what to record next. This is priceless, but it's also free. So go to homestudiocorner.com/checklist to download and print out your free copy. Okay, so first let's start off with a story. I have been a singer all my life. From kindergarten, I did my first solo. I sang the theme song to Winnie the Pooh, and I started it a full octave too low, which is unfortunate because you don't have that many octaves to choose from when you're 5. So the piano player started playing the intro, and you're supposed to go, deep in the 100-acre wood. But instead, for some reason, my brain goes, take it down, take it down, take it down. So I started growling this, deep in the 100-acre wood. But as you can imagine, it sounded even worse because I didn't have a deep voice. So it was just kind of growling for a good minute and a half. Anyway, so I've been singing for a long time, and I've sung badly for many years, but I've spent a lot of time in the studio singing and also in the studio with other vocalists. And I've learned that singing on pitch, of course, is important. Yes, we have tools like Melodyne and Auto-Tune, but we would all agree it would be better just to sing it on pitch to begin with, even if you're going to touch it up with tuning software later. The first time I really ran into pitch issues that I was unaware of was the first time I sang with in-ear monitors. We had moved from Indiana back to Nashville to be closer to family. We joined a church. I joined the worship team, and the leader let me sing. I'd been there on the team for a while, and she said, hey, why don't you sing lead on one of the songs this Sunday? And I thought, great. That church used in-ear monitors. I'd never used them before, but I'd been mixing in a studio for forever, so it seemed no big deal. So I put the in-ears in. We had our own little personal monitor mixer, and so I set it up how I would normally set it up, and we go through the rehearsal. And my song comes up, and I crush it. I sang my butt off. Sounded incredible. Get to the end of the rehearsal. I'm packing up my guitar, and the leader walks up to me, bless her heart, and she says, hey, could you hear yourself? Instantly, I knew exactly what she was saying. She was saying, you were really off pitch, and I didn't even know it. Why? Because I didn't have things set up like we're going to talk about today. So let my embarrassing story be a cautionary tale for you. I fixed the problem and sang on pitch the following morning when it mattered, but boy, I learned an important lesson that morning. By the way, question of the day. What's an embarrassing story of yours? I shared one of mine. Now you can share one with me. Leave a comment. Let us know. That'll be kind of fun. Okay, so there are 3 things we're going to talk about to help with pitchiness. Now, that example was in a live environment, but the same principle holds true in a studio, especially from a live environment where you're using in-ears versus a studio with headphones. It's really similar. So there are 3 things that can help, and the first one is the most important, and that is the headphone mix itself. What are you sending to the singer? That's going to have a huge impact on whether he or she is going to sing on pitch or not. Let me give you an example, because me talking about it versus me showing will actually make a big difference. So here is an example of things set up the wrong way. See if you can spot it. I'm going to sing through this verse, maybe into the chorus a little bit. See if you can spot the problem. Okay? All right. So you're hearing what I'm hearing. Okay? So see if you can spot the problem.
You say that it won't be long until I see it through new eyes. While everything goes wrong, it makes more sense to cut ties.
Okay, did you spot the problem? No, it's not that I'm sitting down while singing. I like sitting down while singing. The problem was the vocal mix was too buried. So what I realized in that live rehearsal where I thought I sang amazingly and found out later that I didn't, is because I set my vocal level to where I would normally set the vocal level if I was mixing a song, right? So if this is the music, I set the vocal maybe just right on top of the music, right? Just peeking over so it blends nicely with the rest of the band. That's how I always set vocals, so I thought that sounds nice to me in my ears. Let's go, let's sing. Turns out I can't hear the vocal well enough when it's just barely above the music. It blends in, and I end up having pitch problems because I can't hear myself. Rather than doing that, the vocal needs to sit way above the music. So I'm talking a good 6 dB or more louder than the music. That means if putting it up that loudly causes things to be too loud or to clip, and then the headphones are on the mix bus or whatever, that means you may have to turn everything down a good chunk so that you can turn the vocal up. Also, don't forget, the volume knob on your headphones is a valuable tool. What would have been a better solution than the vocal that I did here? Let me show you. So the first thing I would do is, while listening, so that volume is good for the music. That feels pretty good. Now my vocal needs to sit on top of that. There's lots of different ways to do this. For me, it would be simply just turning up the vocal fader itself. So here's the fader for the vocal. So let me set it back up and I'll show you where the vocal should be. This is my headphone mix that you're hearing. This is what it takes, for me at least, to get a good on-pitch vocal. Here we go.
You say that it won't be long until I see it through new eyes. While everything goes wrong, it makes more sense to cut ties.
You see what I mean? The first one you might have said, maybe the vocal's a little bit quiet. The second one, there is no doubt that the vocal is very clear and very loud. Could have probably, honestly, been even a little bit louder. Take the music down, bring the vocal up a little bit more. But that's the level that it takes to be able to hear yourself well as a singer. So if you're not the vocalist and you have a singer in the studio, make sure you have a way to hear what they're hearing. Whether it's just going over there and like putting on the headphones and singing into the microphone, or having it set up where your headphones sound identical to theirs, that's going to be the best way to make sure that they're getting the headphone mix that they need. They might say, especially if they're less experienced, the vocal's too loud, can you turn it down? No. You can turn the overall volume down, but the balance between the vocal and the mix needs to stay pretty different so they can hear themselves over the mix. Now, if they're insecure about the sound of their voice, right, that's a thing. We gotta like do our psychology piece as audio engineers to talk them through that. But burying the vocal so that then they just sing off pitch is not the answer. Now, it doesn't guarantee that they will sing off pitch, but if I have a singer who is singing off pitch, the first thing I'll do, honestly, while they're singing that first take, is I'll just gently nudge up their vocal in their headphone mix without even them asking for it. And a lot of times you'll hear the pitch gets better right away. So that's true, but what happens if it's so loud in their headphones that they start to sing more timidly? That's also a problem, right? They want to belt, but they're used to hearing their vocal kind of buried in the mix. They want to belt. What's the solution? Well, first solution could be just turn the overall headphone mix down, which means the music is a lot quieter, which may mean it doesn't feel that energetic to them, so that hurts the performance. Another option is, and this is number 2, have them sing through compression. Now, you can have compression on the way in while you're recording if you've got something like an external channel strip that has compression on it. That's not what I like to do. I actually like to use compression as a monitoring tool, but I'm not actually recording the compression. How does that work? Well, in something like Studio One, it's just a matter of putting a compressor on the plugin, or putting a compressor plugin on the track while you record. So they're hearing compression, but what gets recorded is not compression. Another option is I can put compression on my mixer here, and I can set it up in such a way that I hear the compression, but the signal going into the computer sends off to the computer before the compression happens. This is just, if you haven't done it before, I'm not going to demonstrate it here because it's pretty simple and obvious, but you will have a compression set up much like you would in a mix session, so the vocal gets pushed down, right? So if they sing louder, it doesn't get louder in their head. They can sing and they can belt, and the vocal volume stays roughly the same, so they're more likely to dig in and sing a little louder, and you're more likely to get a nice in-tune vocal, and you don't have to worry about accidentally over-compressing on the way in. If you're brave, you can absolutely compress using outboard gear on the way in. Just know that once it's there, you can't take it out after the fact. That's why I like to use the software monitoring side of compression, meaning a plugin on the channel that doesn't get recorded versus committing to that compression on the way in. It's a nice tool to have in your tool belt. Okay, the third option for singers who are singing off pitch, if the headphone mix doesn't solve it, and if maybe compression's not an option or you just don't want to bother with that, or perhaps it's not working either, is to simply have them take one ear off. You've seen this in countless music videos and behind-the-scenes studio things. You'll see a vocalist singing into a microphone, and they'll take one ear off. All that is, it gives them ability to hear their voice just from here to here. That's how they're used to hearing themselves, mostly singing around their house when they're songwriting. They can hear their voice that way. That can be an easy way for them to tell if they're on pitch. This one you have to be a little bit careful with, especially when using in-ear monitors in a live environment, that people who regularly take out one ear for singing what ends up happening is they tend to turn up the overall volume of the headphone mix in the other ear. Obviously, if I take this ear out, I can't hear this one. I can't hear the mix as well, so I'm cranking it up in this ear. So what ends up happening is there's the potential to cause hearing damage in the other ear when you take one ear off. A little less of an issue in the studio, but it's something to keep in mind. Ideally, I like to sing with both headphones on, but if it's one of those days where I'm just pitchy and I can't quite figure it out, I'll just pull one ear off and sing that way. It's not going to kill anybody. Make sure you just be aware that you're not cranking up the volume after you take one off, and you'll be fine. Bonus tip for you, in regards to taking one headphone off, you may consider, if you don't already have a set, getting a set of open back headphones. So I've had these for over a decade. These are the HD 650s from Sennheiser. Any open back headphone could be interesting. I use these primarily for mastering, but it can be helpful when singing because they're open, which means I can still kind of hear myself in the room even though I have headphones on. So I'm kind of cheating. I get to hear what's coming through the headphones, but I'm also just hearing my voice in the room, which makes it feel a little more natural to me. The downside is anything coming out of the headphones can get picked up by the microphone. So depending on the song, or if there's a really loud click track, that might bleed into the mic. So you got to take that into account. All right, I hope I've given you 3, maybe 4 ideas that you've never heard of or you haven't tried yet. Next time you're recording vocals and you encounter pitch problems, I hope you hear me on your shoulder reminding you to try one of these things, and I hope it makes your session go swimmingly, as they say in the UK. Is that a UK thing? I don't know. If you like this video, you'll love this video on stop recording vocals like this. It's the way that I like to record vocals to avoid recording take after take after take after take and wasting a bunch of time and wearing the singer's voice out. Go watch that next. Thanks for watching. See ya.